So today is New Year's Eve and tomorrow is the start of a brand new year, and that means the January transfer window is now open. Every single year I always do a January transfer window special video and to give you guys my overall thoughts on which players I think should leave the club and which positions Luton should look at in recruiting in throughout of the month. So let's start with players that are potentially going to leave the door. So 3 or 4 players could potentially leave throughout January, and their names have been posted pretty much a lot on social media. One of those players is Dan Potts. Dan Potts, for me, I felt we should have let go in the summer. I think we gave him a contract based on loyalty, which I understand it from the club's perspective and what he did in the playoff final, obviously winning the shootout, scoring the pen and whatnot, but I felt it was time to let him go then. I didn't think he had the capabilities of being a Premier League footballer. I also just don't think he was actually that good. Maybe that's me being a little bit harsh. I felt he's a good, you know, low-end Championship defender, maybe high-end League One defender, in my personal view, but his injury record is just simply not good enough. Throughout his whole time at Luton, ever since the League Two days, he's always got injured, and that's a problem because you just can't rely on him when, you know, you need to make changes or when you're short at the back. Like right now, we've had like a defensive crisis throughout the month of December, and Dan Potts is nowhere to be seen, which is, for me, the problem. If he's not ever going to be fit to play, then we might as well let go of him and just, you know, thank you for the service, thank you for what you've done in a Luton shirt, and let him go and part ways and try and bring in someone who can probably stay a little bit more fitter, you know, throughout a season. Maybe that's been a bit too harsh, but I just don't think it's fair to keep someone who gets injured quite frequently. You know, I don't think he has injury-free seasons, and yeah, I just don't think he's very good and doesn't really compete with the current first team players which we've got at the club. So yeah, I would definitely part ways with Dan Potts. Another player which I think will also leave throughout this month is Woodrow. Now, Woodrow, we signed him last season. I think to a lot of fans has been a real disappointment because he hasn't really hit the ground running, obviously being a former Luton player himself. I don't think he's had a fair run in the team, if I'm being honest with you. And when he does play, I do like him, especially when he actually plays as a striker with Morris. I do see elements of why we've signed him. And obviously everyone at the football club, especially the players, talk about how he's the best finisher at the club. But obviously from a Luton fan's perspective, we've just not seen it. Now, do I see him getting ahead of Elijah and Morris right now? I don't. Do I see him getting enough minutes to keep him happy? No, I don't. And does he get injured? You know, quite frequently, since he's been a Luton player, yes he has. So, he's another player which I would have to just say, you know, just let him go. Let him go and play football if he is fit enough. You know, I'm talking about players trying to get rid of him. We can't get rid of him if they're injured, so that's going to be a difficult task. But I think he's another one who we just need to say, thank you for your service, thank you for helping us get promotion last year. I think a lot of us will always remember that Norwich goal, but apart from that, I can't really say he's got a future here at Luton Town Football Club. I really don't, and I just don't see him starting ahead of Elijah and also Morris. And then the third player which I think we're going to have to say goodbye, and I don't like saying this, but I just don't think Edwards is the biggest fan of his, and that is Luke Berry. Luke Berry for me is a goal scoring midfielder who will get you loads of goals. He pops up in the right areas. He does get injured every now and again, but he's been fit. And he has been for quite a while, but Edwards has just simply not used him at all really since we've been a Premier League club. He's favoured other players ahead of Luke Berry, and for that reason I think we're going to have to say goodbye. This one for me would hurt a lot more because Luke Berry, I've always been a favourite of his since the League Two days. Obviously he did get a leg break while he was with us at the time, and that connection to Luke Berry, like, you know, grew even more. And, you know, goals in the Championship were vital as well. I really like Luke Berry. I was a massive fan of his. But he's just not... I don't think Edwards likes him. I don't think Edwards wants him in the team. And he's just not getting any minutes, is he? You know, Clark got injured pre-season. Clark's recovered from his injury and has started more minutes than Luke Berry has. The same with Lokonga as well. He got injured and he's played more than Luke Berry. Pelly's played more than Luke Berry. So I just don't see a future where Luke Berry is a Luton Town player. I really don't. And I feel like there's no point keeping players if they're not going to play. So I would unfortunately say goodbye to Luke Berry. That one will hurt, but I think it will work best for the football club to let him go. So let's talk about positions which I think Luton need to recruit in. Obviously, with what's happened to Tom Lockyer and how at times I felt we've been quite defensively, we've been poor. I do think we need a centre-half in. We need someone, hopefully with a bit of Premier League quality and a little bit of Premier League experience. Someone who's on the same wavelength as Ross Barkley and Andros Townsend that could help the boys out really well. We do have quite a young backline. You know, Alfie Dougherty still under the age of 25. Tidor Menji, Osho is still relatively young. Burke's still not exactly old. So, and Kapore as well. We've got, you know, I would say that's quite a young defensive line. It's not experienced at all, really, especially in the top division. So someone like that would be a massive addition to Luton. And I think it will help iron out those individual areas and manage games properly a little bit better, especially when moments get the better of us. You know, when a team's, you know, on top of us for about 10 minutes, it's nice to have that leadership at the back, which I think could overcome, you know, whether it be a full-on attacking for 10 minute spell from another team. I think we really do need someone with a bit of that. And also, I feel like we can up the quality in defence as well, because I do think we lack a little bit of quality at times in the defensive areas. So yeah, a centre-half I think is an absolute must. We've also had injury crisis at the club. You know, Reece Burke has been another player who's been, you know, frequently injured since being a Luton Town player. On his day, he can be a Premier League defender. I honestly believe that, but he needs to be more fit. Mans Anderson's been injured. You know, Gabe Osho's been injured. Dan Potts has been injured. And obviously what's happened with Tom Lockyer. That's a lot of names there which I've mentioned who players have been frequently injured with. Amari Bell, you know, we're pushing him to the very max. We need to be careful. So if we can bring in a centre-half, potentially left-sided, that would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, defensively, we need to bring in a centre-half. I know there's going to be about a few conversations about right-back. With Kapore, should we just return him back to Manchester City? I'm going to do a separate video on that going forward about our loan, you know, dilemma. On should we let Lokonga and Kapore go back and whatnot. But yeah, there's been a few conversations there. So potentially a right wing back could potentially come. But I feel like centre half is more important. I think an attacking player is definitely needed. Whether that would be a striker or winger or someone who can play in both positions. I think, you know, someone who can push Morris. Someone who can push Elijah as well. Because Woodrow's obviously not doing that. Also someone who I think can come off the bench and cause plenty of problems. Someone like, you know, Chio, you know, Ogbeni. You know, Ogbeni can obviously play as a wing back, but I think another bit of, you know, quality in those attacking areas wouldn't go amiss. Obviously, someone like Townsend, but a little bit younger, a little bit, you know, fresher legs. That's what we kind of, you know, need. I know this isn't going to be cheap, but I feel like an attacking player, a striker who can push and help us wouldn't go amiss. And also, I think we need another centre mid with a bit of quality as well, because if someone like Ross Barkley gets injured, I think that's a massive hole. Nakamba's out for a while with a knee injury, so he's going to be out for potentially 2 months. So maybe a replacement for Nakamba. We may obviously let Lokonga go back to Arsenal. We're not too sure yet. So we will lack a little bit of quality if certain players get injured in that midfield. So someone with a bit of quality in the midfield. I think someone who can obviously be defensive but also have an attacking mind and has confidence going forward. Someone who's confident with the ball at his feet as well. I think that's, you know, incredibly important. And yeah, those are the 3 positions which I think we should potentially look at. We could do more business, but I'm going to say 3 in, 3 out. And go from there. But I do think we are going to be busy. And I do think Luton, we are going to spend you know, 10, 15, potentially 20 million in the January transfer window. And I know what people are thinking. No, Lewis, we're not going to spend that much money. Well, it's not a lot. I know it's a lot to us, but for other clubs, they spend that on one player. I know the board are going to be, you know, very cautious, and I trust them, of course. But I do think they are going to spend money, because we're only 1 or 2 players away from staying up in the Premier League, believe it or not. We're not that far away from it, and why don't we just go for it? That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a businessman, but in business, I know you've got to take risks at times. So this could potentially be a massive risk with, you know, good outcomes, especially if we stay up. That's more money. So I don't know. It's up to the club to obviously decide that. But we could potentially break our transfer window, our transfer record, and it wouldn't surprise me either if we did it in January. But players are really difficult to recruit in January, so we have to be smart with our business. But I believe we've got one of the best recruitment teams in the league, so I back us to do some really good deals. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section of this video. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy listening to my thoughts as well. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next video.